I gained 40 pounds of muscle in about 6 months when I first started working out. I was a senior in high school at the time, and up to that point, I had just done body weight stuff like push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups. But when I started hitting the weights, my body responded really, really fast. So in today's video, I want to break down exactly how I did it. And despite, yes, it being 25 years ago, there are still principles today that I follow that will help you rapidly add muscle, build a physique that you're proud of, and do it with a lot less mistakes that I made early on. So without further ado, let's just jump right into today's video on how to build muscle faster. Yes, I know the title says 40 pounds of muscle in 6 months. Is that true? Well, I went from 145 pounds to 215 pounds as a senior in high school in 6 months, eating a ton of food, training like a maniac. And yes, not all of that was muscle. The reason why I say 40 pounds is because eventually, a few years later, when I cut down to really low body fat, I was about 185 pounds at 6-7% body fat. I did a bodybuilding show. So I know that I gained a ton of muscle in that period of time. One of the first things that I would tell you about building muscle is that there is a such thing as newbie gains. If you have never trained before and this is your first time getting into a consistent weight training routine, early on you're gonna typically, in most cases, build muscle faster than any other phase as you progress inside of your fitness. Could I build 40 pounds of muscle now in 6 months? No chance. Even if I took every steroid, every TRT, every possible thing under the sun, there's no way my body would respond that way because I've been training for the better part of 25 years. So it's really, really important mentally to go into a muscle building phase and understand where you are. Are you a newbie? Are you just starting out? Or are you a little bit of a seasoned veteran who may not have as much capacity for building muscle? It doesn't mean you can't build muscle because the principles I'm gonna teach you today will help you no matter where you are. But that's the first thing to understand about the amount of muscle. Most guys, I would say you'd be fortunate and blessed to build anywhere from 4 to 6 pounds of quality muscle every 12 months. But don't get discouraged. All you gotta do is go to your local grocery store, take a look at a pound of lean steak, and that's about what a pound of lean muscle looks like. So it's not a small amount. Imagine 4 to 6 pounds of lean muscle being added to your frame every year. That's pretty significant. All right, so the first thing that I did with my training is I set up a training split. If you don't know what a training split is, it's just how you organize your training on a weekly basis. Now, I did a video recently, you can check it out here, on a whole breakdown of a week of workouts. I'll go through the entire process. We're not gonna do that today, but I am gonna share with you some really cool things I've never talked about on other videos when it comes to my training that you can apply to your own. But for me, my favorite training split back then was push-pull legs. Now, I had more time as a 16-year-old kid, 17-year-old who just had to go to school, play sports, and work out. But push-pull legs was, in my opinion, and still is one of my favorite ways to break up your body parts. Push day is chest, shoulders, triceps. Pull day is back, biceps, and traps. And then leg day is everything in the lower half, glutes, hamstrings, quads, and calves. And I followed that split for a long period of time. Now I've mixed it up since then. I've done upper body, lower body. I've done body part splits where it was like chest on Mondays, back on Tuesdays, legs on Wednesdays, shoulders on Thursdays, arms on Fridays. But I always tend to revert back to push-pull legs. There's something about just grouping those muscles together that way that makes my training easy, enjoyable, and really straightforward. So the first step is committing to a training split for an extended period of time. This might sound crazy, but you don't need to change up your training every couple weeks. You don't need to change up your split every month. I would actually give a split a solid year. If you're really serious about building muscle, I would stick to a training split for at least 12 months. I know it's a big commitment, so just start with a 30-day commitment and say, hey, for 30 days, I'm not gonna mix up my workouts, I'm gonna stick to the same workouts. People always ask me what were the best exercises, and we're gonna talk about some of my favorite ones here in a second to build muscle. But what worked for me back then in terms of exercises, in a lot of cases, still works for me today. Yes, I might change up the variation, which we'll mention here in a minute, but the training split is something you don't need to change very often. Once you find one that works for your schedule, your lifestyle, and your ability to actually get stronger and build muscle, stick with it, all right? Stick with the training split. That is step number one. Taking So let's talk about exercise selection. Now, structure, how your body's shaped, your length of your arms, legs, all that kind of stuff will factor into what exercises work best for you. So this will take a little bit of trial and error, but what I will tell you is that early on, I was fortunate enough to read Arnold's Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding, which outlined all the best exercises for building muscle, right? So I started doing a lot of the right things early on. And one of the biggest things that he stressed was the big three. So deadlift, squats, and bench press. Those three were the cornerstones of most of my training. Now, I would add in a couple to those, that list. Number one being pull-ups. Pull-ups was something I sucked at for so long, but once I really bought into doing more pull-ups, my back and my biceps got so much bigger. Pull-ups was another one. Shoulder press overhead was also another one. So add that to my list of my best exercises. Then I started to expand and get really strong at things like the T-bar row. Other things like Romanian deadlifts for my hamstrings, lunges for my leg. But these exercises are tried and true exercises. They're not going out of style, right? So many people are looking for the latest and greatest exercises to do to build muscle, but in reality, your answers are in the simplicity of the basics. The basics will always be the foundation. Now, what changes as you get older? What changes have I made as I've gotten older? It's not the movement patterns themselves. Like I still do overhead shoulder press, but instead of maybe doing a standing barbell press, some days I might hop on a Smith machine with a little bit more stability to prevent damaging my shoulder, having tendonitis, whatever, right? Pull-ups, yeah, I still do a lot of pull-ups, but maybe I do like lat pull-downs, close grip pull-downs, variations of the same thing that just put a little bit less wear and tear on my body. I've already built a lot of muscle over the years, so I don't need as much intensity to maintain it. But that being said, exercise selection is crucial. You want to have what's called compound exercises as the staple and baseline of your program. Deadlifts, squats, bench press, these are all compound exercises because they train more than one body part at the same time. For example, a bench press trains your chest, even your front deltoid of your shoulder, your tricep, and it forces your core to brace too in a lot of sense. So there's a lot going on. Same with the deadlift, same with the squat. Now, a lot of you are probably thinking, well, I don't want to get hurt. What if I throw my back out deadlifting, or what if I hurt myself squatting? I totally get it. That's why I don't have our clients jump right into heavy barbell deadlifts, heavy barbell squats. We might start with something like a kettlebell, squat for your legs, which you hold a kettlebell goblet squat in the front, right? So you're holding a kettlebell here and you're doing a squat versus having a barbell on your back, which might compromise your body because your body's just not ready. But once again, it's a movement pattern, right? A squat, a deadlift, picking something off the ground, a pull-up, pulling your body weight horizontally or vertically, right? These are things that are just the baseline of your training. So when I tell people, hey, I still do the same stuff I did 25 years ago, I'm just stronger, I'm just better with my form, I just have better mind to muscle connection, I'm not lying. It's literally the exercises that I use to build all the muscle. It's just, I kept them in the program, and because they're still useful, they never go out of style. So exercise selection is the second point that I want to make. Make sure you're going after the big exercises, the compound movements, adding as you go along, and we'll talk about how to add what's called volume and intensity to your exercises next.
Taking
All right, point number 3 is that it's important to track your lifts. If you're serious about building muscle, tracking your data is going to become a crucial part of the process. It's easy to go in the gym and just throw weight around and think, yeah, I think I'm getting stronger. I'm pretty sure I'm getting better at these lifts, but data doesn't lie. So one thing I did early on was I tracked all of my training from the start. I would actually just have a notebook and I would write down how many reps I did, how much weight I lifted on all my exercises. This is also another reason why I don't like to change up exercises very frequently, because I need to give my body time to progress inside of my training. If I'm always changing up exercises, I'm kind of starting over every time I switch things out. There is a time and place to change exercises, right? If you plateau on an exercise for weeks at a time, months at a time, you're not getting stronger, you're not able to do more reps with the same weight, you're not able to add a set, to continue adding volume to your training, then it's okay to swap things out. But you got to give it time. And I would track lifts religiously until it got to the point where I was able to actually graph out my strength gains over a period of 6 to 12 months and notice that, wow, I gained some serious strength and some serious volume as well, right? So if you're not into tracking data, that's cool. I wouldn't say you have to track all the lifts if you don't want to, but it's probably a good idea to track your first 1 or 2 exercises every single day, or at least in your mind have some goals over the course of 2 to 3 weeks, meaning, yeah, maybe some exercises you don't track all the time, and maybe some days you just go in the gym and lift, but every so often, at least once or twice a week, make sure you're tracking your lifts so that you can look back and say, even though the mirror isn't showing it yet, or I don't feel bigger, I don't feel more muscular yet, the data doesn't lie. I am getting stronger. I'm adding more volume. I'm adding more reps, adding more sets. This is a crucial part that most guys skip. And it's one of the first questions I always ask guys who want to build muscle. Hey, are you tracking your lifts? Show me the data so we can figure out where your strength is suffering or where you're plateauing or what exercises we need to start with. And most of the time, I'd argue pretty much 100% of the time, guys will say, oh, I don't track my lifts. I track my nutrition or I track my steps. And those things are important too. And we are going to talk about nutrition next. But tracking your lifts, a crucial part of adding muscle and something I did religiously, and it paid off.
Breaking down.
So if you made it this far in the video, first of all, I got some really good stuff coming up, so keep watching because I am just about to give away some of my most important tips when it comes to building muscle. But if you found it valuable so far, just make sure to hit the like button, let me know, leave a comment. What is your #1 fitness goal right now? Is it building muscle? If it is, where are you struggling? Let me know, ask a question. I answer every single question because I care, want to make sure you get the results that took me so long to get without making the same mistakes I made. So leave me a comment, like the video, and let's jump into the best nutrition strategy to build muscle.
Breaking down.
All right, as promised, let's talk about nutrition. Now, nutrition could be a video in and of itself when it comes to building muscle, losing fat, or a combination of the 2 goals. But nutrition always plays a vital role in any of the fitness processes that you might go through, especially when it comes to building muscle. Now, I'll just tell you up front, I did what's called a dirty bulk when I first started adding muscle. Basically what this meant was I was eating as much as humanly possible to add muscle to my frame. I felt like a skinny kid who never had abs, so skinny fat, and all I wanted was to I was desperate to build muscle. It's all I ever wanted was a physique that I could be proud of. So I started eating everything in sight. Milk and cereal, breakfast sandwiches at school. I would pack 2 sandwiches for lunch and I would buy a school lunch. I was just cramming food down my pie hole as fast as humanly possible. And luckily for me, I was still at a stage where I was very active in life. So I played a lot of sports. I was always running around. I was burning off a lot of calories. And I was able to burn off a lot of calories. So I didn't add a ton of fat, but I definitely added some body fat. So dirty bulking is something that some people need to do, right? You need to just eat as much as you possibly can. Some people have a crazy fast metabolism and you got to really pack in the food. But there's 2 main factors that will influence building your muscle. #1 is calories. So some people who have great genetics can add muscle simply by training and eating a decent amount of food. But a lot of us need to actually eat more food than we burn every single day in order to add muscle. Meaning we need to be in a caloric surplus over the course of time. This is the opposite of burning fat, where you have to be in a caloric deficit in order to lose body fat. But it doesn't mean you have to dirty bulk. What it could mean is you got to eat just slightly above maintenance calories. So with that might come a little bit of fat gain, but not a lot, but a decent amount of muscle gain as well. That could be a slower process though for some guys. So some guys need to go pretty high above their maintenance calories in order to see noticeable muscle gains in a short period of time. I would tell you if I had to guess how many calories I was eating back then, it was probably around 4,000 calories a day. That's probably not exactly accurate. It might have been a little bit more than that, Some days it might have been a lot less than that. But I would argue when I think about the food I used to eat and the volume that I used to eat, it was definitely around 4,000 calories. But the second factor is protein. We can't ignore protein. Now, do you need an enormous amount of protein to build muscle? Do you need to eat, 2 grams per pound of body weight in order to build muscle? The answer is no. Back then, if I had to guess, I was probably eating about 1 gram to 1.5 grams of protein per pound, but I wasn't super religious or consistent with getting the same amount of protein in every day. What I did do though every day is I had a protein shake. I remember going to GNC as a teenager, and back then there was a product called Muscle Tech, and it was just protein powder, but it came in this huge tub, and I would combine it with this product called Cell Tech. Cell Tech was creatine with a boatload of sugar, and I would mix chocolate protein powder with this berry flavored Cell Tech, and I would choke it down every single day. And in that shake, I'd have about 50 grams of protein and about 60 grams of carbs, plus creatine. Speaking of creatine, we are gonna talk about supplements next, the ones I use to build muscle, but this protein shake every day helped me get in more protein. Now, I would eat things like, turkey sandwiches. I would go to Taco Bell and have chicken quesadillas. Sometimes my mom would make a big thing of ground beef, and I would have ground beef and rice at night. So I wouldn't say I was getting an enormous amount of protein in, but I was definitely getting enough to build muscle, combined with enough calories to support my training. So my best advice for you is this. Start by finding your maintenance calories. Typically, that's gonna be around 14, sometimes a little less than that, 13 times your body weight. That's gonna give you a rough estimate of where you are maintenance-wise. Once you find your maintenance calories and you're maintaining your weight at a certain amount of calories, then you can start to increase from there. But if you're someone who has a crazy fast metabolism, I'd argue that sometimes you may need to go upwards of 1,000 calories over maintenance to start seeing noticeable muscle gains. But I wouldn't start there. I would start by going 200 calories over maintenance and then 500 calories over maintenance, systematically, so you're not adding a ton of body fat. But you could also just go for it. You could just say, you know what, I'm gonna dirty bulk. I don't care if I had a ton of body fat, I'll cut it off later. Cool. You could always just go hard and eat as much as you want, knowing that you're gonna add a ton of body fat. I would say most guys, if you're under the age of 25 and you've never actually done an extended bulk to add muscle and you're serious about adding muscle to your frame, stop chasing the shred. Stop trying to focus on staying lean all the time and give your body a chance to grow. Give yourself a solid 6 to 12 month muscle building phase, add a lot of muscle to your frame, and then you can always cut down. Don't fall into the trap of trying to stay shredded year round. That's just a bonus tip for you if you're serious about adding muscle. So let's talk about supplements next.
Take it down.
All right, so let's talk about the last piece when it comes to how I built so much muscle so fast, and that is supplementation. Now, this is gonna be a short part because I actually didn't supplement with a lot of things. I know there's gonna be all sorts of comments about steroids and testosterone. Listen, guys, I built 40 pounds of muscle when I was 16 years old, going into my 17th birthday. That was when I had my most gains ever, and I swear on everything, I was 100% natural, no steroids, no hormones, nothing illegal of any kind. Literally just a bill at GNC every month for a few things. Number one, creatine. Now, I'll tell you the exact product I took, creatine monohydrate by a company called Twin Labs. I don't even know if they're still around, but they were these huge pills of creatine that I would take every single day, and it worked. Creatine monohydrate still works. It's still one of my tried and true supplements that I take today, just about every single day. Now, the product has changed. I actually use my own supplements now that I make myself, that my company makes. But at the end of the day, creatine monohydrate is still the baseline for muscle building. So what does creatine actually do? Well, it helps generate ATP. In other words, it helps generate energy inside the muscle when you're working out. So ATP can go away. It can be utilized in full and it can go down to zero. So creatine helps your body generate more ATP. So in other words, it just helps you perform better. So when you're in the gym, you can get stronger, You can lift a little bit longer, a little bit harder, a little bit more intense. So over time, you're able to do more. So that leads to more muscle gain. It's really that simple. Creatine does also hold water inside the muscle cell for most people. Sometimes it can cause a little bit of bloating. It just depends on the person, but most people have no side effects whatsoever besides more energy, better training, and more muscle gains long term. So creatine was the first supplement I took. The second supplement I always took was whey protein. I told you guys earlier, I had a whey protein shake every single day. Whey protein helped me get more protein into my diet, and it can help you do the same thing even today. Now, there's a lot of different protein products out there. There's vegan protein, there's casein protein, there's whey protein, there's blends. You're gonna have to experiment with what works best for you in terms of digestion, how you feel. For me, I actually now stick to more vegan proteins whenever I supplement with protein, because it just sits better in my stomach and it digests better. Whey protein doesn't do it for me anymore, doesn't make me feel great, so I don't use it anymore. The third thing I took was basically a sugar supplement. Don't do this now unless you really need the calories, but this product called Cell-Tech that I mentioned earlier was actually extra creatine along with a bunch of dextrose, and that's just sugar. That's all it really was. So I was getting more calories in, I was getting sugar in my system to replenish my glycogen stores that I was burning through with my workouts. Honestly, you don't need to do this now, but it was something I did back then, so I just want to include it in this video so you know everything that I took down to the very last thing. But once again, like I said, this is a short part of the video because there wasn't a whole lot. Besides my protein, my Cell-Tech, and my creatine, I didn't take anything else. I didn't have the money, guys. I was 16 years old. My parents weren't rich. I wasn't rich. I was a baseball player, a high schooler, didn't have a job, so I wasn't loading up on all the supplements. I did eventually try more supplements down the road. You know, I tried everything from over-the-counter testosterone boosters to all the latest and greatest cool stuff, the amino acids, like everything. And honestly, what I always found worked great was making sure my vitamins and minerals were topped off. Creatine was always something that I kept in my routine. And electrolytes. Electrolytes are something that I use now because I sweat a lot. I want to replenish the electrolytes that I lose. Other than that, I don't use anything else besides an occasional protein powder. But that's it. My supplementation bill is pretty low. You can find the supplements that I sell through a link below, but I'm not here to sell you supplements. They're honestly just there so you have a place to get the stuff that works, and it's like a handful of stuff. So let's wrap this video up with my final thoughts on how to build muscle. Last bonus tip for you guys is don't forget your heart health. A lot of guys want to add a ton of size. They want to add inches to their bicep. They want their shoulders to expand. They want that V taper. You know, they want that Greek god physique, and I'm right there with you. I like looking good. It's part of being a human being, in my opinion. But that being said, we can't neglect our health. One thing I neglected back then, now fortunately, I was playing sports, and so I had cardio built into my sports routine. But looking back, I had no clue what I was doing when it came to my heart health. So if I was redoing things now, I would make sure that I'm hitting a cardio goal. Yes, I'm gonna be burning calories, and yes, I will need to account for those calories with my nutrition if I'm trying to add muscle, but I need my heart rate to get up a few times a week. I need my heart rate to actually be out of zone 2 or into zone 3, into zone 4, even zone 5 to take care of the heart, because the heart is a muscle. You don't want to add a bunch of size and not give your heart a chance to strengthen at the same time. That can put a lot of unnecessary strain on your heart, could lead to heart issues down the road. I'm just looking out for you guys from a health standpoint. If you're dead serious about adding a ton of mass, keep your heart healthy. That's something I wish I would have done, and now it's something I do religiously. So keep that as part of your routine. I have one more bonus tip for you. If you're an older guy in your 30s, 40s, 50s, or beyond, and you're like, I want to add some muscle, it's not too late. I'll tell you that, number one. But make sure you're getting your blood work done. Know what you're working with. This isn't necessarily about getting on TRT or hormone replacement. If that's something your doctor recommends, great, go for it. It could help your heart, it could help your health, it could help you do a lot of things. But at the end of the day, if you don't know what's going on underneath the hood, you're missing out. Because I guarantee there are things that you could do naturally to improve your health that will lead to muscle gains. It could be something like your vitamin D3 levels. It could be hormones, right? And there are things you can do naturally to improve your testosterone to make sure that you're capable of actually building muscle. It could be other things, right? It could be your blood pressure. Like, there's a lot of stuff that goes into just overall health, and most guys ignore it until it's too late. So don't be that guy. Even if you're 20 years old or if you're 30 years old and you're like, I'm too young, I don't need to worry about that. It's never too young to start caring about your health. So make sure you get your blood work done at least once a year, full panel. Go to your doctor or order it yourself through a lab that's local to you. but make sure you get it done. I personally get it done every 6 months. I stay on top of my blood work. I have a doctor who tells me, yep, you're in great health, you're doing all the right things, or he tells me, hey, you should take some vitamins here, some minerals here, you should make sure that things are topped off. And that's just part of the game of being healthy and fit. All right, guys, that wraps up today's video on how I built 40 pounds of muscle in 6 months. I hope it helped. Hope it gave you some insight into what I did, how you can change your training and set up your nutrition to ultimately build the muscle and the physique that you want. That being said, if this video was helpful and you want more, I do have a couple resources for you that you can find in the description of this video, including my free 3M action plan for guys who want to transform their physique utilizing sustainable principles that allow for you to maximize your potential when it comes to your fitness without sacrificing your family, your work, or your social life. That would be the free guide. If you're interested in actually working with our team, we've helped thousands of guys for the past 15 years inside of my company called The True Transformation. And I've also been a personal trainer for years before that, where I've helped hundreds of people transform their lives, their bodies, and everything in between using the power of health and fitness. But we're a custom tailored program, so it's built for you. Tell you exactly what to do, how to do it, and give you the community and the coaching around you to support you in your goals. If that sounds interesting, you want to learn more, there's a link below that you can check out to find out everything about the True Transformation. But in the meantime, thanks so much for watching today's video, and I will talk to you on the next one. Life moves fast, make it count. Peace.